Hello everyone, my name is Anushka Saxena and in this video we will continue reading chapter 21 of class 11 biology, that is neural control and coordination. So let's get into the video. 21.6.2 The ear. The ears perform two sensory functions, hearing and maintenance of body balance. Anatomically, the ear can be divided into three major sections called the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. The outer ear consists of the pinna and external auditory meatus or canal. The pinna collects the vibrations in the air which produce sound. The external auditory meatus leads inwards and extends up to the tympanic membrane or the eardrum. There are very fine hairs and wax secreting glands in the skin of the pinna and the meatus. The tympanic membrane is composed of connective tissues covered with skin outside and with mucous membrane inside. The middle ear contains three ossicles called malleus, incus and stapes which are attached to one another in a chain-like fashion. The malleus is attached to the tympanic membrane and stapes is attached to the oval window of the cochlea. The ear ossicles increase the efficiency of transmission of sound waves to the inner ear. An Eustachian tube connects the middle ear with the pharynx cavity. The Eustachian tube helps in equalizing the pressures on either sides of the eardrum. The fluid-filled inner ear called labyrinth consists of two parts, the bony and the membranous labyrinths. The bony labyrinth is a series of channels. Inside these channels lies the membranous labyrinth, which is surrounded by a fluid called perilymph. The membranous labyrinth is filled with a fluid called endolymph. The coiled portion of the labyrinth is called cochlea. The membranes constituting cochlea, the racines and basilar, divide the surrounding perilymph-filled bony labyrinth into an upper scala vestibuli and a lower scala tympani. The space within cochlea called scala media is filled with endolymph. At the base of the cochlea, the scala vestibuli ends at the oval window, while the scala tympani terminates at the round window which opens into the middle ear. The organ of Corti is a structure located on the basilar membrane which contains hair cells that act as auditory receptors. The hair cells are present in rows on the internal side of the organ of Corti. The basal end of the hair cell is in close contact with the afferent nerve fibers. A large number of processes called stereocilia are projected from the apical part of each hair cell. Above the rows of the hair cells, there is a thin elastic membrane called tectorial membrane. The inner ear also contains a complex system called vestibular apparatus located above the cochlea. The vestibular apparatus is composed of three semicircular canals and the otoliths. Macula is the sensory part of saccule and utricle. Each semicircular canal lies in a different plane at right angles to each other. The membranous canals are suspended in the perilymph of the bony canals. The base of canals is swollen and is called ampulla, which contains a projecting ridge called crista ampullaris, which has hair cells. The saccule and utricle contain a projecting ridge called macula. The crista and macula are the specific receptors of the vestibular apparatus responsible for maintenance of balance of the body and posture. 21.6.2.1 Mechanism of hearing. How does ear convert sound waves into neural impulses, which are sensed and processed by the brain, enabling us to recognize a sound? The external ear receives sound waves and directs them to the eardrum. The eardrum vibrates in response to the sound waves, and these vibrations are transmitted through the ear ossicles, malleus, incus and stapes to the oval window. The vibrations are passed through the oval window onto the fluid of the cochlea, where they generate waves in the limbs. The waves in the limbs induce a ripple in the basilar membrane. These movements of the basilar membrane bend the hair cells, pressing them against the tectorial membrane. As a result, nerve impulses are generated in the associated afferent neurons. These impulses are transmitted by the afferent fibers via auditory nerves to the auditory cortex of the brain, where the impulses are analyzed and the sound is recognized. Summary. The neural system coordinates and integrates functions as well as metabolic and homeostatic activities of all the organs. Neurons, the functional units of neural system, are excitable cells due to a differential concentration gradient of ions across the membrane. The electrical potential difference across the resting neural membrane is called the resting potential. The nerve impulse is conducted along the axon membrane in the form of a wave of depolarization and repolarization. A synapse is formed by the membranes of a presynaptic neuron and a postsynaptic neuron, which may or may not be separated by a gap called synaptic cleft. Chemicals involved in the transmission of impulses at chemical synapses are called neurotransmitters. Human neural system consists of two parts. First, central neural system, that is CNS, and second, the peripheral neural system, that is PNS. The CNS consists of the brain and spinal cord. The brain can be divided into three major parts. Part 1, forebrain, second, midbrain, and third, hindbrain. The forebrain consists of cerebrum, thalamus, and hypothalamus. The cerebrum is longitudinally divided into two halves that are connected by the corpus callosum. A very important part of the forebrain, called hypothalamus, controls the body temperature, eating, and drinking. Inner parts of the cerebral hemispheres and a group of associated deep structures form a complex structure called limbic system, which is concerned with olfaction, autonomic responses, regulation of sexual behavior, expression of emotional reactions, and motivation. The midbrain receives and integrates visual, tactile, and auditory inputs. The hindbrain comprises pons, cerebellum, and medulla. The cerebellum integrates information received from the semicircular canals of the ear and the auditory system. The medulla contains centers which control respiration, cardiovascular reflexes, and gastric secretions. Pons consists of fiber tracts that interconnect different regions of the brain. The entire process of involuntary response to a peripheral nervous stimulation is called reflex action. Information regarding changes in the environment is received by the CNS through the sensory organs, which are processed and analyzed. Signals are then sent for necessary adjustments. The wall of the human eyeball is composed of three layers. The external layer is composed of cornea and sclera. Inside sclera is the middle layer, which is called the choroid. Retina, the innermost layer, contains two types of photoreceptor cells, namely rods and cones. The daylight or photopic vision and the color vision are functions of cones, and twilight or scotopic vision is the function of the rods. The light enters through cornea, the lens, and the images of objects are formed on the retina. The ear can be divided into the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. The middle ear contains three ossicles called malleus, incus, and stapes. The fluid-filled inner ear is called the labyrinth, and the coiled portion of the labyrinth is called cochlea. The organ of Corti is a structure which contains hair cells that act as auditory receptors and is located on the basilar membrane. The vibrations produced in the eardrum are transmitted through the ear ossicles and oval window to the fluid-filled inner ear. Nerve impulses are generated and transmitted by the afferent fibers to the auditory cortex of the brain. The inner ear also contains a complex system located above the cochlea called vestibular apparatus. It is influenced by gravity and movements and helps us in maintaining balance of body and posture. Here our chapter is completed. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day ahead.